Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar in which we will look at dream interpretation, which is one of the most interesting fields when it comes to dreaming. And I think one of the things that people ask me most about when speaking about dreaming, something that really can help us understand our unconscious mind, but also so much more. As you will learn in this video, the way in which we approach dream interpretation from our school, the School of Awakened Dreamers, is very different from how we are often taught to think about dream interpretation in other schools, or when we search on internet, or the way in which other psychologists like Freud or Jung have approached dream interpretation. So we will dive deep into this in this webinar through the questions that have come in, because as you know from our previous webinars, we ask our people, the people who are following us, to send questions in the beginning of these webinars on specific topics that we will answer to during these webinars. So we have a list of questions from which we will choose. Hopefully, these will be questions that will be questions that you have had as well, but also questions that we can use to, let's say, widen the field about how we see dreaming and how we can explain dreams and dream interpretation in this specific case, so that hopefully all of your questions will be answered. If they are not answered completely during this webinar, you can always comment on this on the video that will come up on YouTube afterwards, or write to us directly on our email to ask other questions, and that we can respond to, or directly through email, or also in webinars like these. So first of all, who am I? My name is Celestina Kalea, and I am one of the co-founders of the School for Awakened Dreamers, which is a 3-year path into understanding and awakening the sense of dreaming that we have, which is something that we say in our school is a part both of our nighttime, but also of our awake time. It's really a sense that we have as human beings that we call in my community in Damaner an inner sense, a sense that allows us to, let's say, journey in between dimensions, which is the core of what dreaming really is. It's a journey through dimensions that we do with our subtle bodies, that we can do from being awake or from being asleep, which of course when we are asleep this happens naturally. So let's see. Yes, we also have this 3-year path of the School of Awakened Dreamers. If you're watching this video now before September of 2025, we have an opening for our intensive school. That means the full first year of the School for Awakened Dreamers, which is called Wake Up and Dream, Pushing the Boundaries of Reality, here in Damaner, in presence from the 5th to the 17th of September of 2025. There are still some opening spaces for this course, which is a 2-week retreat of going extremely deep into dreaming here in Damaner with all the energies that are here, going to our temples of humankind, and really be a part of a group of dreamers, which is always very, very beautiful, and a sense of family, dream family that we create here. So if you're interested, you will find both through the emails that you will receive after this webinar, but also in the links in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, you will find all the details to go and see more. So let's go directly into what you came here for, which is understanding the secrets into dream interpretation, or let's say what I have discovered being a more correct way of approaching your dreams and how to interpret your dreams, that is quite far away from what we are taught in the Freudian way of approaching dreams. Or even Jung, as a student of Freud, he already touched on other, let's say, territories or topics that are wider than Freud and a little bit more closer to this theory. But for me, before coming to Damaner and before starting to study dreams in the sense of this esoteric community that I'm in, but also from all these points of view that I didn't have, really starting a path of dreaming, I was using dream interpretation every day, really as a tool for my own spiritual awakening and to try to see what my dreams were telling me. So, the way that I approached at the time before starting on the real dream path was really, okay, what is my subconscious mind telling me through my dreams, and how can I use what my subconscious mind is telling me to actually act or behave or do specific things according to what my deeper self was telling me. And from one point, this is very powerful, and I will explain in this webinar why. And I will also explain in this webinar why this approach doesn't always work, and why also in my past I found myself blocked, and how understanding, let's say, the wider sense of looking at dreams really has helped me to see dreams from a different point of view, and also, as a consequence, approach dream interpretation in a completely different way. So, I want to dive directly into this because it's a huge topic. We have quite many questions, so I will try to answer as best as possible to these questions. Again, if you have more questions and you're watching on YouTube, please just write them in the comments and we will answer as soon as possible. So, as I said, normally when Freud was looking at dreams, and oftentimes when you think about dream interpretation, you normally look at the symbols and the situations in your dreams as part of your unconscious mind, as a mirror of yourself. This is something that I hear a lot. And you are trying to understand, okay, what does this symbol mean to me? What is this a reflection of in myself or in my subconscious mind? And this is okay, but only in a specific part of our dreaming. And I will explain what that means. In our school, we speak about two different kinds of dreaming, we could say, even though there are actually infinite ways of dreaming, as you will see if you start on a path with us. But to make it very simple, let's categorize two very important. So, the way when we think that everything in our dream is a reflection of ourself and use dream interpretation in that way, this is what we call in our school when you're inside of your house. Now, to explain this, you must understand that when we are dreaming, we are exiting our physical body with our energy bodies that are going on a journey outside of the physical body. And oftentimes, what we are doing is that through dreams, we are using a part of this journey of being in a territory that we call our own house or our own territory, or what Freud called our subconscious mind. So, this is where all experiences, both from our entire life, but also things that have happened during the day or during the week or during the last period that has touched you in a specific way, or perhaps that you have not even known that it's touched you, but it has been registered in your subconscious mind. Everything lives there. So it's a whole holistic view and impression of your life, your emotions, the energy you've been in contact to in regards to you. So this is why we are calling it your house. And oftentimes, especially we Westerners, why do I say we Westerners? Because Western civilization does not have from childhood an education of dreaming that some other indigenous people or traditions or cultures that have more ancient lineages connected to them have. So normally in Western cultures, when we are children, we don't study dreams that much. They are regarded just as dreams. There's not a tradition or a culture that has an interest around our dreaming. So what happens is that we don't have a training, and so the main part of our dream time, let's say, are often focused in our subconscious mind, which is, of course, that's why also Freud thought that that was the only thing that there was to dreaming. Why does this happen? Because also, oftentimes, we don't have a path or, let's say, a culture in which we process what has happened to us, in which we process and where we learn to release and to understand energy. And when we are dreaming, and in general, as a human being, our energetic and physical constitution, what it does is that we are constantly in contact with different energies. And energies is also how we translate what is happening to us, so our emotions. And if we don't have a path or a culture that helps us to release or to unnod or to understand emotions, patterns, things that has happened to us through our lives, but also constantly in our everyday life. This is a kind of charge that then is put and that is resolved during our dream time in our subconscious mind so that we can have this energy release that we need. Because if we don't have that, it's like we are going around like a big bag of water with a lot of holes in it, and so there's a lot of leakage of energy. So in our school, in the first year especially, we really speak of the fact of the importance to recuperate energy that we have lost to our past through difficult situations, but also through the repetitions of these patterns that have been created, or that we could call habits or crystallizations, and to really become conscious about it in our everyday life so that we can stop losing energy. Because, in a very paradoxical way, actually, we are losing a lot of energy every day, and we need, this is the paradox, we need a lot of energy to dream. So, what normally we are doing, and when the normal way in which we look at dream interpretation, it's when we are in our subconscious mind, where effectively everything around us is a mirror of our subconscious mind, so we can interpret it in that Freudian way, or in the normal sense in which we do it, even though even here there are some difficulties, because oftentimes in these dream interpretation sites or lexicons, there is this idea that one symbol or archetype often represents the same thing for every human being, which is also, if you think about it, a bit strange, because we have all different memories and experiences with different symbols. Normally in our school, we speak about the fact that there are some very few archetypical symbols, like, for example, the elements fire, wind, water, earth, that are universal. Otherwise, we have a completely different relationship with these symbols, depending on culture, depending on experience, depending on background, and so many other things. So, what we do in our school is that we actually get people to write their own dream lexicon. This is a big work, but it's very, very, very valuable. So, to give you an example of this, if we say we have a student, Julia, who grew up with three dogs and she loved her dogs, that was the love of her life and really a big part of her childhood and a safe home for her. When she dreams about the dog, that the dog in the dream will represent something completely different than from, let's say, Oscar, who had a traumatic experience with a dog biting him when he was a child. Okay, so this is just one example, but that allows you to understand that it's not as simple as taking one symbol, or one thing and giving it an interpretation for everyone. Then you can have a more or less, but it's not that simple. Another thing is that the second way, so we said that we have our subconscious mind in which we can look at different dream symbols, in which we can understand that the things are a reflection of us, or that we can interpret the symbols in a way that we normally do. But then we have the second category of dreaming, which no one ever speaks about, which is actually when, as we say in our school, you leave your house. What does this mean? So, if our house is our subconscious mind, our territory in which we are immersed in with our energy bodies to recuperate energy that we have lost, or to resolve things, and as a result of resolving things, recuperating energy, then when we exit our territory and we go into other dream territories, that means that we are actually using the higher form, let's say, of what the sense of dreaming is meant to do, which is actually traveling with our energy bodies through other planes of subtle realities. In this territory, the territory that is the territories, because it's not one territory, we say about when you exit your house, this is when you're really traveling between many different territories. What you can do there is really to meet other beings in this subtle, let's say, ecosystem that we have in our universe, and also where we can meet deceased ones, or where we can connect with other people. So it's really like, this is why we call the first territory our subconscious mind, our house, because normally that is when you are alone in your house. But when you exit the door of your house and you start travel and you start meeting the world outside, this is where you can actually meet real beings, or you can actually meet real deceased people or other energies in which you come in contact with, which is normal for us as human beings, as travelers in between time and dimensions. This is something that we should have, let's say, a mastery of doing, but that we don't really learn in Western societies, or where we, this knowledge, which is a very esoteric knowledge of how to actually do that, how to actually travel, and especially how to travel consciously with our energy bodies, it allows us to understand that we as human beings, we are so much more. And it also allows us to understand that the universe is so much more, which is also why in some religions this knowledge has been shadowed. This knowledge has not wanting to be shared with the world and with people, because, and in Christianity for a long time, these aspects, or the dream world, they were seen as the devil's land, where your desires went completely free, but not only because of what was suppressed in your subconscious mind, but also of what you can actually learn about the truth of the universe and of yourself when you travel in these dimensions. So, of course, when we speak about these territories, and when you're not within the comfort of your own house, or your own subconscious mind, the way in which we interpret the dreams must be completely different, of course, because we have a scenario in which everything that you meet is not a reflection of your subconscious mind, but is actually a real and alive energy. So this is very shamanic or very esoteric, and the interpretation that we must do is completely different, because you cannot really interpret something in the terms in which you interpret your subconscious mind. And this is really a key here, to understand in which territory you are in. So this is the first thing that we ask our students in the School for Awakened Dreamers. When they come with a dream, we ask them a specific set of questions to try to understand first ourselves in which territory they are in. Now, I am a teacher of lucid dreaming within the school. And of course, when you are lucid, there are practices that you can do to find out in which territory you're in. But this is essential, really, to understand what kind of interpretation you must give to the dream. Now, even when you are in the territories outside of your house, in which you can actually meet entities or other energies, what your subconscious mind is doing is that it's reflecting an image onto the energy, that what, depending on what it feels, it creates an image of what it thinks the situation is about. And this is natural. So you can still use some of the codes, but you need to understand when you are in contact with real energies and when you're within your subconscious mind. So now I have given you this 20-minute introduction, which is very important to understand dream interpretation from our point of view. So now let's take the last time to go into your questions to widen this a little bit more. So let's see. The first question that we have is, what does it mean when I dream about people who have died? So, of course, again, seeing it from this perspective, if you dream about a deceased person, you must understand and try to see in which territory you're in. Oftentimes, when we dream about a deceased person, it might be that we are dreaming about, let's say, we are casting um, a mirroring of that person, or we are meeting something within ourselves that represents that person. That happens when we are in the subconscious mind. And that then means that you perhaps have things that you need to deal with this person that is reflected in you, or that there are parts of you that are connected with that person. So that this is all part of your memories. This is all part of the experiences that you've had with this deceased person. However, Or for example, if it's a person you never knew, but perhaps sometimes people dream about famous people who passed away, that can also have a specific interpretation depending on if you heard about that person recently, or if you're a fan of that person, if you think about that person recently. But it's always a reflection, if you're in your subconscious mind, of yourself and of your specific connection with that kind of person, your thoughts about that person, or your energy towards that person. However, you might have had dreams in which you dream about a deceased person, in which you really feel, you wake up and you really feel that was really that person. There's a completely different energy quality. It's like it's more alive. It's a real meeting. So you wake up oftentimes very touched by a meeting like that. That might have been that you actually were not within your subconscious mind, but that you had a real connection with that deceased person, because of course that deceased person is part of this subtle universe and ecosystem, and there is a possibility to travel. Oftentimes in our dream school, what we say is that they are the ones traveling to you, because doing a travel in between dimensions, even while you're dreaming, getting closer to the threshold, what we call it, or the realm in which people go when they die, it requires a huge amount of energy from the living. So oftentimes when this happens, it's this person who comes back to contact you. And that, of course, then you need to look at the meeting and the emotional gain that you had from that meeting. So we understand that it's not as simple as saying, what does this mean? Because it depends on what kind of experience you had and in which territory you were in. Again, another question, which this is a good time. I often wake up emotional after my dreams. How can I know what they are trying to tell me? This is a very good question. Thank you for this question, because this allows me to go in and give you yet another dimension of dream interpretation as how we see it in our school, and what I very rarely hear about when I read about interpretation from other perspectives. It is that everything in your dreams is energy. And how is that energy translated? Through emotions. So the key element in interpreting your dreams is to look at your emotional state within the dream. This is the most important way to understand and to unlock what this dream meant for you. To give you an example, sometimes people come to us and they said, I had this horrific nightmare. It was horrible. I saw a child burning, or I saw, there was these things happening and there was snakes everywhere. And then when we actually go through this dream, sometimes we ask the people, but what was your emotional state in that dream? Were you afraid in the dream? And sometimes people ask, and oftentimes actually people tell us, no, I was not afraid. I was just observing, or I was actually feeling good, strangely, now that I think about it. This is very, very important, because your emotional states always tells you about the energy and the dream. And that is the root cause to dream interpretation. So the dream scenario is energy that has been, let's say, translated by imagery by your subconscious mind. So you have projected an image onto an energetic situation that has created this scenario of the dream. And so to be able to really understand what underlies the situation and what it is talking about, you need to look at your emotional state within the dream. So in this question, for example, when it says, I often wake up emotional after my dreams, how can I know what they're trying to tell me? Okay, then you need to understand, what kind of emotions do you have when you wake up? And you can play with the fact of looking at dream symbols, both from what you have a feeling and the sense of what they might mean for you, but then looking at your emotional state. Sometimes they contradict, and this is where dream interpretation becomes very interesting. So if you wake up emotional after your dreams, it might be that you are going through a lot of high energy dreams. But of course, in this question, it's not stated if you mean negative or positive emotions. Negative emotions might be connected to the fact that you subconsciously are trying to heal things within your dreams, or you're trying to uncover or to recuperate energy, and you're not able to, which leaves you to feel that you feel more drained or that you feel negative emotions. But of course, if positive emotions, then you need to look at your symbolism and you need to try to understand what that means. Oftentimes, if you have a lot of emotions, it allows you to be more connected to your dreams. So it's good to look at them and to see what they're telling you. Let's see some other dreams. Can dreams predict the future or guide us in big life decisions? Of course, because when we are in the subtle territories, we are outside of time. So, also when we go out of our subconscious mind, we can travel in between time because that is what we are doing. We're outside of time, traveling in between dimensions. So, of course, we can end up seeing something that is a possible future event that then will happen. So, and the same thing that you can travel back in time to connect with other timelines. So, this is very, very possible within dreams. And we have in the second year of the dream school, we go through the students' dream specializations because some people have a natural ease or a natural talent to predict the future or to travel in time in their dreams. And the other part of this question that says, guide us in big life decisions, of course, because even when you're in your subconscious mind, we shouldn't see our subconscious mind as something negative or something less than traveling in between dimensions, because when you're in your subconscious mind, you can really tap in to your highest creative power, to the mission of your life. So, of course, you can have big guidance even when you're in your house. And this is especially true when you're lucid in dreams. Something that I always teach within my classes in the dream school is how when we are in our subconscious mind and we become lucid, how we can really ask the dream and ask our subconscious mind about big life decisions, about our life mission, about anything really that we want to tap into our subconscious mind and our higher mind also, because our subconscious mind is everything. It's not only something below, but it's something also above. And the results that people have in this is amazing. And the answers that you get is really amazing. So if you are a lucid dreamer and you look at that, really try to go into the lucid dream to really ask yourself these questions, because you are in really rich and abundant territories to get very interesting answers. Okay, so let's see. How do I know if a dream is a message from my soul or just my subconscious processing stuff? So, this question is from a person who has obviously understood something. Now, you can get a message from your soul even if you're in your subconscious mind. So, your subconscious mind is actually helping you to process things, as I said in the beginning, to recuperate energy. So it's a very important task that your subconscious mind is doing when processing stuff. But if you have a message from your soul, the thing that you need to look at is, as in the first question, the emotional and energetic quality of the dream. Oftentimes, when you wake up having a very emotional sensation, that you feel that something is really, really important and you feel that something was very real, even if it was connected to you, it's something to pay attention to. Oftentimes, when we are in our subconscious mind and just processing stuff, our emotional state is very off, in the sense that it's almost as if we are watching a dream. If not, we are caught up in nightmares and really trying, our subconscious mind are really trying to help us heal something, and we have not arrived to that moment, so that we are very fearful in our dreams. But otherwise, what I see oftentimes in students is that dreams are often they have a lack of emotion almost. It's like, your everyday life is just running on and you are just living your dream without really reacting or stopping to ask yourself something or to be truly conscious about it. So when there is a message from your soul in your dream, you really have a completely different energy quality, which you can translate and see in your emotional states. So this is also something that you learn when you are on a dream path, and something that we teach to our students throughout the School for Awakened Dreamers is really how to learn to start see and feel the difference in energy quality of the dreams. This makes a huge difference when you need to interpret your dreams. Let's see, we have so many questions. Sometimes I lucid dream or feel like I leave my body. Is that normal? Yes, it's very normal. Lucid dreaming and astral travel, which is when you leave your body consciously, is actually the same thing, two sides of the same coin. Where astral travel is that you leave your body consciously from being awake, so you allow your body to fall asleep, and then you detach your energy bodies from your body, which happens, which is a very interesting conscious process, which by the way also happens when we die. So it's an interesting thing to learn, to practice. But a lucid dream is when that process happens automatically, unconsciously, because it's a natural process when we fall asleep, and then we find ourselves already outside of our body, or perhaps in dream territories that are very far away from our body. We find ourselves lucid there, but it's both are the same context, that you're traveling consciously with your astral bodies or with your energy bodies. So it's normal, it's a human capacity. The thing is that most people forget about it or are not trained to do it. So it's a capacity that many children have, and that then they lose that capacity through life because of many reasons. That could be a huge topic by itself. So if you're interested in that, you can also comment on this video below to see if we can go deeper into that into another webinar. So let's see. We have some last questions. Some questions repeat. Is there a right way to interpret dreams, or is it all personal? I think I've responded to that question. Um, can dreams really help with emotional healing or life clarity? Yes, I've responded to this as well, especially through lucid dreaming. I think this is a similar question to this also. How can I use my dreams to find my purpose or next steps in life? Now, I think that a very important way to use your dreams to grow spiritually, as I spoke about in the beginning of this dream, this is also a dream, at the beginning of this webinar, is really to spend time with your dreams. The best way to learn how to interpret your dreams is to write your dreams down, of course, and to look at each symbol of the dream, and look at the emotional state that you had in the dream, rather than just a mental projection, let's say. So I would not suggest that much to go on internet and write like dolphin dream meaning. Even if you can do that, it's not a mental process, because you are completely connected to centers of your brain that are not in the mental process if you're not lucid, because then your whole brain is actually activated, and your brain does not feel or know that it's asleep, because you have all emotional and mental capacities awake as if you were awake. So I would really look more into my emotions, because that is how energy is translated, and I would start to make a distinction between the two things, to try to understand in which territory in your subconscious mind, in which everything is a reflection of yourself. Every symbol is a reflection of your subconscious patterns, or when you travel outside and you actually meet intelligences, deceased people, entities, or anything beyond that you can meet in this space and time travels that we are doing during night. So if you're interested also in going deeper into that, in really learning these processes, in really going into deep dive into your dream world, and also understanding your dream capacities and how you can recuperate energy through your everyday life, to also direct into your dreams, to remember your dreams better, to have more vivid dreams, or to really be able to lucid dream, or to travel in between dimensions and do all these amazing things that we have the natural capacity to do as human beings. I would urge you to really look into the for Awakened Dreaming, which is a really deep dive into dreaming, and it's not a quick fix. but it's true. And we have had hundreds of students who have benefited from this and have really excelled in their dreaming. So if you're interested also in coming here, meeting us, spending a very nice time here in Damaner, we have these intensive schools now. If you're watching this before September 2025, you're welcome to join us in the upcoming intensive school. Otherwise, you can just go to our website and see the upcoming schools, both online or intensive version here in Damaner. So thank you so much, and I wish you good luck with your dream interpretation.